because I was hearing it from my district. I certainly try very hard to listen to my district and make the choices and the votes when I do. You know, the good thing is, in being a Republican, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, probably when I say that, the philosophical side of the legislature right now is where I agree. And certainly when I don't vote that way if it's something I don't agree on. The cigarette tax is a very tough one when the speaker pulls you up behind the podium and takes you into his office, and you have to tell him no. That's not an easy thing to do, but I certainly will do that when I have to. But I would say the property tax relief, again, I do not agree that we are undertaxed. I can tell you I think we are overtaxed. I do think we have got some severe problems with the way this tax was changed.
Talk to us about what you think is wrong or what you'd like to see
done. The hard part, it didn't address all properties. It just addressed the ones that are primary resident owners and gave pretty significant break there. If you are sitting there and you own a second home, you own investment property, you're getting it put right on your backs right now with the additional monies that are being able to be put with the 6% assessment. So I think that's a real problem. We didn't address the industrial inequities that we have out there where we're giving a new business, which we all want new businesses for. We want them to run ads in the state paper. We want people to come into our communities. However, if you're not looking out for the guys that are already there and you can't give them the same incentives and their taxes are putting them out of business, I don't think that's fair either. We also have a lot of properties out there that are agricultural use tax properties, and the agricultural use tax properties sometimes aren't used for agriculture. You don't have trees being grown on them. You don't have crops that are what the whole reason for the break of that tax was intended to do. Those are the kind of things that we've got to go back and clean up, and we've got to address those.
Do you have any concerns about how much our system relies on the sales tax now?
You know, we do, and I can tell you that that is a strong concern of mine, and I certainly, I know that the governor has certainly been trying to address restructuring. I certainly support that effort, and I want to continue to see us work those areas so that we can look at all of those particular areas and what we're funding, make sure they're accountable, and make sure that we have cleaned that up and made that as lean and mean as it can be, so that we are saving as many dollars, so that when we do have a very dependent, cash need from those pennies and the different taxes how they're being collected, that we can that we're not going to end up in such a deficit that we're running into right now. Because it's wonderful when those monies come out, in the black, but when they come out in the red, it's no fun. I mean, obviously today in the paper, the governor's wanting us to come back and address the shortfall that we have right now, and that tells me that we've obviously not got enough coming in, so we've got to address it.
What about just sort of the way you talked about your concerns about property taxes, and it sounds like you would like for state and local government overall to rely even less on property taxes, for that to be an even smaller percentage of the tax?
It would be. See, I can tell you that the tough part that you have with that, and again, I think it's a very difficult thing when you find something that you're going to get your money from.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where our vehicle has been. I mean, and that certainly has been the vehicle that we've been able to utilize thus far. I think any changes that you're making like this to a system that's been used for years and years and years upon years is going to be a adjusting type of, you're going to have to, adjust as you make decisions and move forward. I do believe a lot of times you have to do things in order to move things forward, even if they're wrong. And I don't mean that wrong. I don't want to make a wrong decision. However, with something like this, I don't think anyone, given the economy that we've been in, given would have would have been able to estimate the true number that we would be sitting at today, given what change we made in the tax structure. And I think that's where, again, the reliance on that sales tax, when it falls short, you've got to have ways to make up the difference. I mean, we need to look at what our essential services are and what is truly needed. And if we cannot provide for those, then we've got to figure out the right method. I don't think putting that burden on the back of property tax is fair, because I mean, I can tell you, I hear about this luxury tax right now that's down here in this area that you've got around the university, around the stadium, and they've put a luxury tax on top of the county and the city taxes, and it is like unbelievable, the amount of tax that these people are paying just to own a condominium at the university for game use. Luxury.
I'm not familiar with it.
There's a luxury tax, and again, I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but there is a luxury tax that the city.
But if there were such a tax, can you think of anything that's more of a luxury than having a condo just to watch football games? I mean.
Well, I mean, I can put it this way.
Is somebody being, you know, taxed out of house and home? It's
well, the tough part you've got with that, Brett, I would say, is you're going to make it where it's unaffordable, and therefore there's not going to be any of those. Again, and those folks that were building those or putting them in place aren't going to be able to go out and purchase things in an economy either, because they're out of business. And I think it's a fine line. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think that, you know, there's no question. If you can buy the Mercedes, you know, why not pay the taxes on the Mercedes? I certainly agree with that. However, if we can figure out a fairer and more equitable way to do it, I think it will help drive our economy a little bit better.
Of course, in South Carolina, if you buy a Mercedes, you pay the same as if you did on a.
And those monies, as you know, this year we attempted to try to move that to where that was going to go specifically for roads, and that's something I know we've had deep discussions at, and I do anticipate it being tried to be addressed again. I mean, I certainly know that one I hear a lot about.
What do you think should happen on that?
Well, again, I think fair is the word, and if you've got an ability to buy a car that is more expensive, then you probably have the ability to pay a higher tax. So that higher tax be totally unaffordable? I don't think so. I think that tax needs to be fair. So I think, again, we've heard percentages. We've heard a cap of like $2,500. We've heard those. I just would like to see it and know, and just I'm a fair guy, and if it's a fair situation, I hope everybody will listen and try to change it.
Would it be fair for them to be taxed at the same rate as other cars? You know, flat, whether it's 6% or 5% or 4%, all of the cars are taxed at the same rate?
Or do it the other way and make the first $6,000 of the car exempt from the tax.
Yeah, and that's been talked about too. And I think that's, again, I mean, there have been, you know, to my knowledge, I think there's been 3 or 4 proposals that dealt in those sort of, you know, those thought patterns. And I certainly, again, you know, what I try to look at is when I'm looking at something like that, if it's that particular tax or any other tax or any situation, is it fair to most people? And if it's fair to most people, then those are the kinds of things I believe we need to have put in place in our systems. Because if it's not, when we did the sales tax, it specifically helped us as primary homeowners. If you're not a primary homeowner, or if it was your second home or investor property, it hurts you. It hurts you pretty bad, and those folks are feeling that pinch right now, and we're going to have to address it, because they certainly are part of our economy too.